Okay, students, we need your attention, please. Stand quietly, please, everyone. Thank you. All right, thank you very much, everyone. If I could just ask everyone to please rise for the Singing of Canada. Oh, that's it. Have a seat. Well, good morning, everyone. Come on, try to get. Good morning, everyone. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Good morning. It is my privilege and honor to welcome everyone to our assembly today. I would like to thank everyone for being here. I would like to introduce our guests this morning, beginning with our Olympians. We have Gordon Bertie, who would mind just raising Gordon, thank you. Barbara Bush-Dauphiné, Alex Steeda, Tim Barrett, and Tara Whitten. Let's give them a big round of applause. From the Canadian Olympic Committee, I also like to introduce Kate Morehouse. Kate, you want to leave? Oh, there she is. Over in the front. Right here. Hey, Kate. I also want to extend a huge welcome to our partner schools who are watching our assembly live on this camera right now. The students and staff at Pollard Meadows Elementary, Daly Grove Elementary, K. Chegwin Junior High, Wyanloss Elementary, Bissett Elementary, Minchow Elementary, Ellerslie Elementary Junior High, Donnan Elementary, and Vimy Ridge Academy. So welcome to all of you who are watching our assembly this morning. Let's give them a big round of applause, you guys. Students and staff, this morning, we've been given an opportunity to learn what it means to be an Olympian. It's more than just being an athlete. It is a way of life, one governed by high levels of athleticism, goal setting, dedication, perseverance, sacrifice, and hard work. The Canadian Olympic Committee leads the achievement of the Canadian Olympic team's podium success and advances Olympic values in Canada. The Canadian Olympic Committee is responsible for all aspects of Canada's involvement in the Olympic movement. The Canadian Olympic School Program seeks to create excitement of the Olympic movement in the classroom and throughout the school, and that's what we're participating in today. Today, we have the privilege of learning and hearing from real Olympians. At this time, please join me in welcoming Sharda, who will introduce our first athlete. Give her a round of applause.
It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Gordon Bertie. Mr. Bertie represented Canada as a freestyle wrestler at the 1972 Olympics in Munich, Germany, where he finished 6th, which was Canada's highest placing in wrestling since 1936, and in the 1976 Olympics in Montreal. He also served as the captain of the Canadian wrestling team. In addition to his Olympic accomplishments, Mr. Bertie has represented Canada as a team member for the international events and has medaled at the World Championships and the Commonwealth Games. His bronze medal at the 1974 Worlds was the first World Wrestling medal for Canada. He has been one of our great ambassadors of sport at home and abroad. Mr. Bertie is a member of the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Bertie to TD Baker.
Thank you. I'm not used to speaking publicly, so if I stutter and stammer, please excuse me. I'm glad you're sitting down. When we came in, most of you are taller than I am, so I feel better looking down on you. I started my wrestling career in Montreal, Quebec, and my first year I wrestled was grade 8, so comparable to most of you in the gym. I was about 90 pounds in grade 8. My maximum weight in high school was about 100. So needless to say, I was a small twerp in comparison to most of the guys in the school. Because of being a small guy, you end up with a bit of a chip on your shoulders, which I'm sure the small guys in the gym can appreciate. And I found wrestling was a good avenue to vent my spleen, so to speak. I took to the sport naturally, and I was very, very lucky to have a gymnastics coach who was qualified for the 1940 Olympics, which were canceled due to World War II. He was a true gentleman of the sport, so he taught wrestling and gymnastics in the school, and he brought in a 1936 Olympian wrestler due to some technical skills, and that's where I was introduced to the Olympics. I'd never heard of them, I didn't know what they meant. In that day and age, and it was 1959, the Olympics was not very popular. It wasn't televised, so it wasn't anywhere near what you guys see nowadays. And he explained to me what the Olympics were, and I made it a goal to be an Olympian at that point in time. And I dedicated my life for 10 years to the sport. I went to Sir George William University for 3 years and transferred to the University of Alberta after my 3 years at Sir George, simply because they recruited the world champion from Japan in a weight class above mine, who I trained under for 2 years at the U of A. In those 2 years, I never made a takedown on him, never scored a point. It made me a better wrestler, just he beat me up daily. And I'm not sure, if you're not in a competitive sport, that sounds weird, but you get better by your defeats than you get by your wins. I learned more lessons from losses, and in my career I had quite a few of them. I was 10-time Canadian champion. 3 of those were college, 6 were freestyle, 1 was Greco-Roman, but I never ran more than 2 years continuous. I would win 2 years, lose to somebody, win 2 years, lose to somebody. And each time I lost, I got more dedicated and more motivated to pursue the goal of becoming an Olympian, and not just become an Olympian. I wanted a medal from the Olympics. Probably the highlight of my career was 1974, where I won the bronze medal in Istanbul, Turkey. I lost to the Russian and to the Bulgarian. I beat an Iranian, and no Canadian ever had beaten an Iranian ever, and it was the first medal we had in the Worlds. I won a World Cup gold, a World Cup silver, which is the top 4 nations in the world competed, and numerous other tournaments. I found through the sport a discipline that I've carried through my life. You can't do international level sport without being highly motivated and very disciplined. And you have to accept losses with wins. Nobody wins all the time. I hope that if any of you have aspirations, that you take a look at them and realize you're going to have to work there to get there. And that applies whether it's in sport or anything else in your personal life. You will have periods where you'll fail. Learn from those failures, and they will make you a better person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tim. I'm honored to introduce Ms. Barbara Bush. Ms. Bush represented Canada in the women's springboard event in the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, South Korea. She has represented Canada at a large number of international events, including the 1990 Commonwealth Games, where she won a silver medal. In addition to her athletic endeavors, Ms. Bush has been a lifelong advocate of the sport of diving, serving as a coach, a judge, and an executive. Currently, she's the executive director of Diving Alberta. Please join me in introducing Ms. Barbara Bush to TD Baker.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm always super excited to come and talk at these things because I always love to celebrate Canada, and I love to talk to you young people because you guys are the future of our country, and it's going to be up to you to carry on these traditions like the Olympic tradition. But I'm already super impressed with your guys' school because I see on the walls of your gym words like dignity and respect and acceptance and belonging. And these are all kind of Olympic ideals to me, so you guys are already halfway there. I was a diver, so I was jumping off the diving boards, and I trained here in Edmonton for most of my career. How many of you guys have been to the Kinsman Sports Center? Awesome. How many of you guys have jumped off the 10-meter? Nice. Good. And the ones who haven't, you're probably the smarter ones because that's pretty high and it's not all that safe, but it's kind of fun. Anyways, I also like your saying on the wall here, there are no shortcuts to being the best. So for me, I trained for many hours every day, and for many years. I went to the 1984 Olympic trials. I did not make the team. So also trained another 4 years, went to the 88 Olympic trials, and did make that team to go to Seoul, Korea. So another message I have for you guys is that if at first you don't succeed, keep trying, because perseverance is the one thing that I think that I took out of my sport, to learn how to keep going and never give up and never quit. So focus on your goals, and if I can do it, all of you guys can do it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bush. Here. It is an honor to introduce Mr. Alex Steeda. Mr. Steeda is one of Canada's most respected and most accomplished cyclists. He has the distinction of being the first North American to win the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. In that 1986 tour, he also captured 4 other classification jerseys. Here. He has represented Canada on the world stage numerous times, including the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles and the 1982 Commonwealth Games, in which he won a bronze medal. Here, Mr. Steeda has been a tireless promoter of the sport of cycling and has helped inspire countless Albertans and cyclists around the world. Here, please join me in welcoming Mr. Steeda to TD Baker.
Thank you much. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. When I was driving here this morning, I was trying to think about what to say. Mr. Fox invited me yesterday, so I really enjoy speaking at these events and just explaining a little bit about who I am and how I got here. I think that's really the most important thing, is to understand, how do you get to be an Olympian, and what does it mean, and what are the steps for you guys? When I was your age, boy, I had no idea, no clue, especially in cycling. I was a hockey player, a soccer player, I did some wrestling for 1 year. Gordon, didn't go so well. I was a rugby player. I tried all the sports. And I think that's the message I want to give to you guys is you got to try them all. You can't just be a hockey player just because everyone else is playing hockey. There's so many other sports out there that you can try. And one of those sports is going to be your passion. And really, that's what it's about, is finding that passion that you really, really want to do. You know, as an amateur cyclist and then as a professional cyclist, I raced 15 years full-time. Started when I was 16, because I was playing these other sports before. You race a lot of races. You race over 100 races a year. As Gordon said, you lose a lot. I only got a chance probably to win maybe 20 of those races. Got in the right position in the sprint or a breakaway, and probably ended up winning about 10 races a year. That's 90 races that I lost every year. And if you look at it that way, it can be kind of depressing. What do you do with all those losses? How do you figure out, what you did wrong? Why didn't you win? And that's what you have to deal with every day when you're an athlete and when you're a student. You can't be perfect all the time. But what's important is that you figure out how to improve, how to work harder, how to be dedicated, how to improve what you've done on the past, how to maybe find out from the other people you're working with, how to share that information so that you can be better. And it's always about getting better. I'm in sales right now, and I don't win every deal that I'm in, but there's always a way to get better and always a way to figure out what I could have done differently. So the next time, I'm going to try to win that next deal. Did anyone see the Tour of Alberta bike race this year? Yeah, staff as well? Yeah? All right. So that was pretty cool, wasn't it? Excuse me. Having these professionals come to Alberta to race around our streets and roads around Alberta was pretty exciting. I was a part of that organizing committee, really excited to have the Tour of Alberta come to our streets around Alberta. It was exciting, so it was really cool to see that you guys had a chance to see it, and hopefully we'll have it again next year, and we'll maybe even have more involvement from the school program as well. So great to see that. And that's really what the message also is I stopped being a professional athlete in 1992, before you guys were born, I'm sure. But the life, the passion of cycling still lives strong within me. And I still do lots of work in the sport to help promote the sport. We have a program, a local club program here, sponsored by the Juventus Cycling Club, and that's run out of the Argyle Velodrome, where we have kids your age can come and learn the skills to be a cyclist. Not necessarily to be a bike racer, but we teach you how to be a bike rider, how to learn how to ride mountain bike, road bike, and track bikes, so that if you want to be a bike racer when you're a junior, when you're 16 or so, you have the skills to be a bike racer. So if anyone has any interest at all in being a cyclist, you can go and visit the Juventus Club website. I'll make sure Mr. Fox has that website so you guys can have a look and maybe discover something that you've never heard about and have a chance to learn something about cycling. So don't forget, it's about dedication, right? It's about respect, all those words you have here, but it's really about no shortcuts. It's about hard work. It's not always the most talented person that gets to be the champion. It's the person who has that passion, the dedication, and is willing to sacrifice and work hard to get to those goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steeda. I am honored to have the opportunity to introduce Mr. Tim Barrett. Mr. Barrett has represented Canada at not one, not two, but 5 Olympic Games as a race walker, starting at the '92 Games in Barcelona, Spain. He also holds the Canadian record for number of World Championship appearances by a track and field athlete with 9. Mr. Barrett completed his PhD at the University of Alberta and has been living in Edmonton ever since. He has traveled all over the world representing Canada with his hard work, pride, and dedication. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Tim Barrett.
How many people cycle to school today? How many people wrestled on their way to school today? How many people jumped in the swimming pool on the way to school today? How many people walked to school? All right.
That's not fair.
So a lot of you walk to school. I did a lot of walking in my day. Now I'm out of the athletes you have here. I'm the only one that can probably actually show you what I did, because we don't have a swimming pool set up. We don't have a velodrome. I don't see a wrestling mat set up. So I'll give you a quick walking demonstration. I might have to put the mic down. I don't know if that'll work for the broadcast, but anyway, we'll try. So, so in walking, as the introductor said, I walked in 5 Olympics. Does anyone know how far the race walking events are in the Olympics? I just drove from the other side of Edmonton to get here, and on my mileometer in my car it was 35 kilometers. Well, my race was further than that. I raced 50 kilometers in the Olympics. So way from the other side, it's probably further than here to the airport, from this side of town. So when I'm racing, there are 2 things that a race walker has to do. They have to keep at least 1 foot in touch with the ground. So before a back foot comes off the ground, the front foot has to hit the ground, and your knee has to be straight at the front of your stride. And I'll give you a quick front-on demonstration. So it kind of looks a little bit like this. And if you look from behind, and we'll show the camera. If you look from behind, it kind of looks like that. But actually, it looks like your hips are doing this side-to-side thing, but they're actually going from front to back. Because what you're trying to do is get a little bit longer on each stride. And quite often when I go into schools, and I have actually been into TD Baker before, I went into, and I can't remember which teacher it was, I went into one classroom and there were about 8 or 9 kids in there. It was a couple of years ago. And I did a little demonstration in the class. And I'm not sure if those students would still be here. They might have moved on. But I'll do a demonstration. I'll have a quick math lesson as to how much extra I can get on each stride and how much further down the road that'll put me at the end of the race. Now I've got, how long is it, Rick? 5 hours to do this presentation? Okay, so we should be able to get, 5 minutes? Okay. So 5 minutes, I won't be able to go through all that. But each stride, you're just trying to get that little bit extra. And that's what being an athlete's all about. Like you've heard from the other athletes already about dedication and the words you've got at the back of the gym here. Acceptance, respect, dignity. Being an athlete's all about those things. And I just have one quick anecdote to tell you about overcoming obstacles, because that's what athletes have to do all the time. Things don't always work out. You've heard about the number of wrestling matches, diving competitions, cycling races that people do, and they don't always win. Well, in my sport, we didn't race that often. I only raced 3 or 4 times a year, my main distance. And I didn't win all of those either. And so more of my time was spent training than it was racing. And I always had to find a way to train in the environment that I was in. I lived in Edmonton for most of my career, but my coach lived in Saskatchewan. He lived in a small town in northern Saskatchewan called Stanley Mission. Has anyone ever heard of Stanley Mission? Yes? It's about 5 hours north of Saskatoon. And what we used to do, between my coach and I, we'd alternate between me visiting him visiting me in Edmonton, and we'd meet sometimes in Saskatoon. Well, it was my turn to go up to Stanley Mission this one time. And I drove up there, middle of the night, got there, never been there before. Woke up the next morning, looked outside, and there's no roads. Normally I train either on a track or a road. There's no roads. And it was the time of the year when all the dirt roads, which is what Stanley Mission is, it's just dirt roads, they'd all turned to mud. So I looked at my coach and said, where am I going to train? He goes, don't worry, I've got a plan. So we drove a little bit out of town. Town's not very big, it's like 1,500 people. And he drove me to a lake. I said, oh, that looks good. So now where am I training? Is there a nice path around? No, there's no path. He said, there's no snow on the lake. So today you're training on the lake. Like the ice is thick enough, I've checked it. You're not going to fall through, and you're going to train on the lake. I said, okay. So we set up a little course around the lake, and I did my laps around the lake. And I was out there for maybe 2 hours. He sat in the middle with a little fire going, roasted some wieners, which I didn't get to eat because that was not part of my training diet. So we did the workout, and afterwards I said, how did that feel? I said, well, actually it worked out pretty well. A week later, I had a big race in Mexico, and it was our World Cup, which is every 2 years for race walking. So it's actually a bigger event than the Olympics, because there's 5 athletes per country in our World Cup, whereas only 3 per country allowed to do the Olympics. And I had one of my best ever results at that event. I finished 5th in the World Cup. And people from other countries came up to me afterwards and said, oh yeah, really good race. It was 35 degrees. You must have been doing some warm weather training. I said, well, actually, no, last week I was walking on a frozen lake in northern Saskatchewan. And they kind of looked at me and said, well, how did you go from that to this? I said, well, you just find a way to do what you need to do. And whether it's being an athlete or a student or an artist, you have to find a way to what Alex just talked about, to follow your passion. For me, my passion was trying to see how fast I could walk to do this. And the way I could do it on that particular week was find somewhere with my coach where I could train that I knew no one else in the world would be doing, especially that close to the competition. So I got to that competition, and I had that kind of thing in the back of my head that if I manage to find a way to train and get a really good workout in those conditions, it doesn't matter what I get to on race day, I'm going to be able to cope with that. So that's something that athletes, and any athlete here will probably have a story like that where they've been presented with some problems and they haven't walked away from their problems. In my case, they walked through my problems. You're always going to be presented with challenges, and there's always a way around those challenges. So just take that message away, and I think we have one more athlete to give you a little anecdote or a little pep talk. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. This day means a lot to me because I live with people that have devoted a significant portion of their lives to sports. My aunt Neelam Jaswant Singh Dogra was a discus thrower and competed in the 2000 and 2004 Olympic Games, while my father, Dilbag Singh Dogra, was a professional field hockey player. Through them, I've learned how sports can change our lives. And it's my honor to introduce another athlete who's inspired countless young people, Ms. Tara Whitten. Ms. Tara Whitten has represented Canada in numerous international cycling events, winning Omnium Gold at the 2010 and 2011 World Championships, a bronze medal in team pursuit, and at the 2012 Olympics in London, England. Ms. Whitten is currently training for the 2016 Olympics and finishing her doctorate in neuroscience. In her spare time, she also likes returning to her first love, cross-country skiing, a sport in which she has also competed at the world-class level. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Tara Whitten.
Thank you very much. It's really exciting to be here. I feel kind of lucky to have gone last because I definitely identified with a lot of things from all of our previous speakers. And I like talking to kids around your age because I think I was around your age when I first thought about going to the Olympics. Or maybe I thought about it earlier, but that was when I first said it out loud. I kind of had the courage to say it out loud to my coach when I was setting goals on a picnic bench in Gold Bar Park here in Edmonton. I don't know if any of you have been to Gold Bar. How many? Yeah, and it was really scary to say out loud that that was my goal, to go to the Olympics. But it turns out that was kind of a guiding thing in my life, and it took me 18 years, but I finally accomplished that goal about 14 months ago in London. And so what I want to talk to you guys today is about goal setting, but not just about setting goals, but about planning how you're going to accomplish the goals, because that's an important part. And once you have a plan in place, you can't just blindly follow that plan either. You have to constantly be reassessing whether it's working and whether your goals are still the same goals and whether the plan is still the best plan to get you to your goals. And the other thing about goals is sometimes you don't accomplish them. But the importance of the goal is still there, because the goal is what gives direction to the things you do. The goal is what sort of provides the path for your life. And so I want to tell you a story about 3 goals, 2 that I accomplished and 1 that I didn't, and how they kind of guided my life. So the first goal I already told you was to go to the Olympics. But originally I was thinking that would happen in cross-country skiing. And I devoted about 13 years of my life to training for cross-country skiing. I moved to Canmore to train full-time when I was about 20. And things were going pretty well for a while. I qualified to represent Canada at Junior World Championships and at Senior World Championships. And I was really enjoying things. But at a certain point, I kind of realized that I wasn't really improving anymore. And I was a bit frustrated, and I didn't know if I should continue or if I should move on to other things in my life, whether I should give up on this goal. And so I decided that I needed to just take a step back. And so I decided not to compete for a year, to come back to Edmonton and go back to school. And during that time, I started riding a bike just to stay in shape. But I was so used to having goals that I thought, while I was riding my bike, I was actually track cycling at the Argyle Velodrome here in Edmonton. And I thought, well, I should make a small goal, so I'll try to make the provincial team to go to nationals this year. And so I trained for a couple months, and we had the provincial championships, and I made the team to go to nationals. So I went to nationals in New Brunswick, New Brunswick. And when I was there, I performed a lot better than I expected, and I started to think, maybe this is how I'm going to get to the Olympics. So right away, I kind of reassessed and decided to take a different path. And 5 years later, I qualified for the Olympics in London and won a bronze medal in the team pursuit. So that's one story. The next story is actually a school-related story. I'm going to move away from sport. So when I was a little bit older than you guys maybe, I read a book called How the Mind Works by Steven Pinker. And I was totally fascinated by this study of the brain. Like, it sounds really geeky, but it was so amazing that our brain could do so much, that because of our brain we can look at the outside world, we can see colors, we can see movement, we can interpret it, we can interact with people. It just was such an incredible thing to me, and I really wanted to study it. So right away I checked out what kinds of programs they had at the University of Alberta, and I decided that I wanted to do a PhD in neuroscience. And the first step seemed to be to do an honors undergraduate degree in neuroscience. So that's what I started out doing, and this was while I was still training for skiing. But the advisor for the neuroscience program didn't really appreciate sports. And he said I had to be full-time student in order to be in the honors neuroscience program. And I was really upset because at the time I was missing about 6 weeks of school in the winter semester to train for for cross country. And so it was really hard for me to take a full course load. And so I decided at that time to stop my studies and to train full time for skiing and to wait until I was done competing before I pursued my education. But at a certain point, I really needed school again. Sometimes I find when things weren't going as well with my sport, I really needed school just to give me some perspective and to realize that sport wasn't the only thing in life. So I decided I needed to reassess my goal. If my goal was to do a PhD in neuroscience, I didn't necessarily need this honors undergraduate degree. Maybe there was another way I could do it that didn't require me to be full-time. So I went back to school and did just the biological sciences and psychology instead, and now I ended up in a PhD program, and things are going really well. So I realized that there was maybe a different path to my goal. And the final story I want to tell you is a goal that I didn't accomplish. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys know, but I was a favorite to win a medal in my individual event at the Olympics, the Omnium. I was a 2-time world champion in that event, and that was really my main focus. The team pursuit where we did win the medal was kind of secondary. And so I put everything I had into that goal. I can't think of anything I could have done that I didn't do. I was thinking about it basically every moment, how I could get better, how I was analyzing the event, analyzing my competitors, trying to figure out what my weaknesses were and what their weaknesses were and how I could be the best that I could be. And at the Olympics, it was quite an incredible feeling to know that I had done everything I could. And when I look back on it, that's what I remember most, is just being totally in the moment, knowing that I had prepared to be there, and I had done everything I could, and all I could do was live that moment. And as it turns out, I didn't quite achieve my goal. I ended up coming 4th in that event. And it was really hard at the time because I was so sure going in that I could accomplish my goal. But in the years since the Olympics, when I look back, I have absolutely no regrets. I love the pursuit. And that's really my message, I guess, is that it's the pursuit of the goal that is so rewarding. And so in the end, achieving the goal, whether you achieve it or not, is not the point. The point is having a direction in life, and the goal is what gives you that direction. So I encourage you guys to think about what you're passionate about and to think about what you want to do and make plans to figure out how you can get there.
All right, well, I'm going to ask a special favor here. I would ask if our Olympians would just please rise just a moment. I want you to, and this is something that I want to say to you on behalf of all of us here. You know, when you talk about your experiences, we're that representation from the rest of the country who lived through what you're doing. And at no point has anyone ever disappointed us. We don't judge the success of our athletes solely on winning the best, the gold medal in all events. It's about the character that you bring, the perseverance, the dedication. Students, let's give these heroes a round of applause. Now, I guess this is kind of a throwdown time because when we found out that Tim Barrett was coming to our school, we have our own resident Olympian wannabe, Mr. Hartel. Everybody know Mr. Hartel? Yes. So yes. what you need to know is that Mr. Hartel every day brags about how fast he can walk from his portable into the school. And I overheard him yesterday saying there's nobody faster than him. So let's see if we can get Mr. Hartel to come up over here. Maybe Tim Barrett could come up. We could have him do a race walk. You guys want to see that? Yeah, come on, Mr. Hartel.
From that end towards us.
Well, how do you guys start over there? Now, students, you need to know that Mr. Hartel will always tell you, no matter whether he wins or loses, he still thinks he looks great. So, let's do a countdown. On 3, 2, 1, go! Oh! Let's give a big round of applause, you guys.
That was awesome. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Tim, for that demonstration. Mr. Hartel, thanks for being such a good sport, man. You do have the wheels out there. You weren't kidding about that. I do want to say a few closing remarks before we finish here today. I want to thank you, our Olympians, for taking the time to come out with us today, to be here. They all have other things that they do in their life, and the fact that they were willing to come out, share their experiences with us, it enriches our lives. And you know, when I was looking at our saying up on the wall, perhaps it should be written a little bit differently. Perhaps it should be, there are no shortcuts to being your best. Because that's really what it comes down to. We have our guests today here from Junior Achievement. They're talking about being your best in a different capacity. We have our athletes here talking about from a personal perspective and through the world of athleticism. So there's a lot of things that we can do, and we greatly appreciate that. We have some wonderful sporting events that do happen in our city. I mean, again, the Tour of Alberta, Alex, we know you're involved. We listen to you in the commentary, and we hope that it's here next summer. And I heard a rumor that you might be competing. Is that true? No, not sure, eh? As well, we know that in September 2014, we do have the International Triathlon Union. The ITU will be back here in Edmonton again. I actually raced in that as a weekend warrior. I did it over 2 years at triathlon. It's a pretty cool event. There's lots that are out there that you can get involved in. And of course, we have our big event coming up, not here in Edmonton, but our Winter Olympics in Sochi in Russia. That'll be coming up, which we'll be very excited to be able to watch our Olympians on TV. I also want to say a big thank you to Kate Morehouse from the Canadian Olympic Committee for working with us. Let's give her a big round of applause. I want to thank everyone for being here with us today. We're going to have our athletes get up and exit out of the room. But as a thank you, students, I'm going to ask you to stand up and give them a round of applause as they're leaving. Thank you very much, athletes.
Say goodbye to the people online.
Yeah. I also want to thank all of our guests from our schools who've been watching this morning. We're going to begin our Google Hangout in approximately 10 minutes time. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Students, if you can have a seat, please.